going on? Hello, and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and John, where we help you say yes to all the scary stuff. Say yes to personal growth, say yes to personal development. Just say yes. Good morning, Heather. How are you?
Good morning, John. Oh, happy Friday. Happy Black Friday. Are you doing some shopping today?
Yeah, of course. Why not? Take advantage of the things that are going on and just celebrating happy, to all of our American friends, happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, listen, it's a good time to sit down and think about what I really need and what do I really want to put into my cart, as they would say, so I can experience life in a slightly different way in 2025. What about you? Are you celebrating American Thanksgiving?
Not American Thanksgiving. The gratitude is something that we can always activate for ourselves and feel joy when we have that gratitude. But John, it's Friday, and no matter what kind of Friday it is, we celebrate our successes for the week. And for those of you that are listening, we want to celebrate with you. So put the celebrations, the impacts, the things that mattered most to you this week, and even the smallest stuff is a reason to celebrate. So for me, I am celebrating year end, getting to the results and coming together. I've been to a few celebrations called the Best of the Best, and it's been fantastic to see the sense of pride and joy that people feel when you look at them in the eye and say, you matter, we're celebrating you, and it really feels good. So that's what I'm celebrating this week. John, how about yourself?
Yeah, no, I love it. Listen, I'm celebrating that you're back, and I'm not doing this by myself. It was interesting having a conversation with me for 20 minutes. So I'm celebrating that, but I'm also celebrating the end of the November 30-day reset, and we just wrapped that up. With part of our group in the community, and it was good. Like, it's been really good. Like, I feel good. All the others, that were part of the 30-day reset with me. So I'm super excited to bring it back in January. So we'll be kicking that off again. But a great way just to refocus. And, one of the things I was able to incorporate back into my practice was a daily priming routine. So something that I had forgotten about as I was going through, life happens, right? And sometimes we don't recognize, or we don't take the time to recognize all the things that helped us throughout the year. And one of the things I realized as I was doing some reflection, going back to November to May and June, I had some really good months. And, one thing that I realized, I'm doing my daily priming practice, and it's like, wow.
John, for those that are listening, can you tell us more? What is a priming practice? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it's pretty much essentially how you start off your day. So, I am a student of Tony Robbins, and I love his priming practices. And he's got a 3-step routine that he works through. And number one is just part one is just really being grateful for the things that have happened in your life, things that have really brought you joy and happiness. So that's step one. Step two is, he calls it bringing in the lights, bringing in the white light, the blue light, and just use it to cleanse your body, from head to toe, and then let it all out. And then the third piece is focusing on the future. And what I love about this is, celebrating the wins that you're going to have. One of the things I was able to do, I had the opportunity yesterday. I had some downtime, so I took it to really start planning for 2025. And I started thinking about the things that I want to accomplish. I've got an Ironman 70.3 coming up in Mont Tremblant in June. So I started thinking about crossing the finish line and experiencing that, taking the day, experiencing Mont Tremblant and doing all those great things in this beautiful town that everybody keeps talking about. So, that, and looking at, there's some certifications I want to work on as well. So just imagining being on the other side of it and already receiving those things as though they've already happened. So that is the priming process, and that's what I've been working through this week, every single day, just as a way of getting it into my day, and it's been fantastic.
I love it. And John, like, that doesn't take that long. People say, oh, I don't have time to have a routine, or, I'm always rushing out the door. And, how you set up your day for the beginning of it is how your day will unfold. So, it's a really good practice, but it doesn't take long at all, does it?
No, well, this particular routine is only 15 minutes, but it's one of the things I actually share with my students when I'm teaching as well. And it's one of the things I do when I kick off my workshop. So it's a great way just to set yourself up for success. The truth is, Heather, we are priming ourselves daily. Right. We're just not aware of it. And, sometimes the priming process is stubbing your toe and having those feelings of upset or disappointment. And, that's what we carry.
Or turning on the news. Like,
yeah.
Right? People are like, oh, I watched CP24. I watched the news first thing in the morning. It's like, oh, wow. That's like, so now you're priming yourself for bad traffic, bad weather, and, whatever other bad news is in there, because there's not very many really good news stories. So, think about what you're allowing in. That's first thing. And then what do you actually want to bring in, and if you don't have 15 minutes for a priming exercise, honestly, your favorite song on the radio is the best thing. There's a radio station that I listen to up at my cottage, and they play the same songs, and they're of a different era, but there's one song that they play all the time. So I've made a rule around this song that no matter what I'm doing, when this song comes on, I have to dance. And so it's like, it's so fun because I have to stop what I'm doing and I have to dance, and guaranteed every day they're going to play the song, or at least every other day. So, you can also have fun with things like that. It's a great way to make sure that you're activating a moment of pause or a reset, because if I have to stop everything I'm doing and dance, and I actually, now anyone that's visiting my cottage, I let them know if this song comes on, we all have to stop what we're doing and we're dancing. And of course, if you're at the cottage, it's kind of a fun, and people are like, I'll play with that, I'll do that. So it's definitely a good reset.
Yeah, you know what? You hit the nail on the head there. The idea is to step into a moment where you feel just good, right? So whatever that takes, right? So it could be a memory, it could be a song, it could be, even wearing something, right? Like there's a particular outfit, or there's a pair of shoes, or maybe you got some funky socks. I got some funky socks that I love putting on that put me into a really good mood. Whatever that takes. And the thing with priming is, it's almost like you want to reshift, you want to reprogram your brain. Essentially, that's what you're doing with priming, and you want it to work in a slightly different way. It's one of the things that we learned through neuro-linguistic programming. So putting this into practice, at some point, it becomes automatic. Just like everything else, right? Like, just like my morning workouts, they weren't, when I look back 2.5-3 years ago, that wasn't a regular practice for me. It just didn't happen. But now it's like, I didn't I didn't go out. I didn't get my 30 minutes of movement in this morning. It's like, okay, I got to fit it in somewhere else in the day. So it becomes a new part of you, right? And what I find one of the most challenging parts of transformation is getting into new routines, because what we typically default to are the routines that we're accustomed to. And the thing is, we don't even know that we fall into these routines until we start actually reflecting on it. And this is what I love about the reflection process, especially as we're going into the new year of 2025. What are the things that you did really, really well this year? And what are the things that you want to do really, really well next year? Let's continue those things, but let's find out and let's look at the things that are sabotaging us now. And
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. And if we take a moment to say, hey, you know what? Every time the thing is, we all have triggers, right? So before we go to triggers, I just want to acknowledge Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. She's celebrating a great on-site team meeting this week, a time of collaboration, support, and camaraderie. Woo-hoo. Good morning, Felicia. So happy to have you back.
And Felicia's a fellow dancer. Yes, dancing in our living rooms like no one's watching. That's the way to go. I love that. John, you said something that I wanted to touch upon, and it was part of your priming routine, but it was visualizing the future and what it is that you want to feel. And oftentimes our brain, this is a great brain hack. Our brain loves to solve problems, and sometimes it tries to solve problems of the past, but you can't change the past. So you end up feeling anxiety, and you start to feel a spiral that happens. But if you look to the future and think, how do I want to feel tomorrow, the next day, a year from now, your brain will still try to solve that problem as well. So, future outlook and thinking about how do you want to feel in the future. Don't worry about the how. The brain will figure that piece out. All you need to do is visualize what the future is and take at least one action forward today, not next week, not next month, today. One tiny, tiny, tiny action. And that's what will help get you started, and your brain will find a way. John, we talk about how we started this podcast. We didn't say we were going to start a podcast. We said we were going to do 5 LinkedIn Live episodes. And then, of course, almost 2 years later, and with a goal to impact 1 million people, which scared us quite a bit, we're going to take that same action plan to now write our book together. So, this is the future that I'm looking at. And I'm saying that out loud because we are now in our planning stages for 2025. And I want to visualize, how do I want to feel at the end of the year? And then my brain will figure out the how.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, so there's a couple of good things that you just mentioned in there. Number one, I just want to go back to what you talked about, the past, right? So the past is an opportunity. When we're looking at it, is not so much, we can relive it, right? Like, just like we can relive the good moments, we can actually, and most times, we actually relive a lot of the bad moments. The question you want to ask yourself in those moments is, what am I taking away? What am I learning from this? Like, it's an opportunity to reframe those moments, right? So when you're looking at, like, listen, there were tough moments throughout the year. I know it doesn't look like it. It doesn't sound like it. I'm here and I'm smiling, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, bad moments. Yeah, of course. We all do, right? The question is, when I look at those moments, how do I really want to look at those moments? How do I want to reframe them? How do I want to, how do I want to grow from those things? Because those are all opportunities for growth. So I look at them, it's like, well, you know what? Maybe I should have done this differently, or maybe I should have planned a little bit differently, or, there's something else. I'm as I'm training for next year, and I'm thinking about the last time I did this event, I didn't train as well as I could have. And, I want to make sure I don't make the same mistake this time. So I've got my plan. I'm sticking to my plan. And my goal is, swim twice a week, bike twice a week, and go out for a walk, run at least once a week, and include 2 rest days in there, right? And, like last night, I didn't get my workout in the morning. So I'm like, my goal is to go swimming twice a week. And I got to get yesterday I got my mile in the pool. So I went last night. And actually, I found it to be way better. And actually, I was doing a cleanse day too on top of that. So it's like a cleanse day, going for a swim. But, it's there. And I just got to do the little checks, right? Like, just check off all the little things that you're doing every day to work towards those things. Because I know the last time I did it, I wasn't as committed to my schedule. And I know this time, if I want to do under 8 hours, which is what I'm looking at, and actually I saw 7:58 in my mind this morning again. So that's what I'm shooting for. And that's going to take the daily practice of getting in the work, right? And, little by little by little by little, you'll get there. And a lot of times we don't do the little things.
So, John, I know, and I'm feeling this in people around me. Some days I'm feeling it myself. There's, the weather has changed. It's a busy time of year. People feel, overwhelmed. It's year end for some companies. How do you, if you can't do your normal routine, if you can't do, if something's in the way, what can you do instead? How do you still give yourself that gold star for success, but at a smaller degree of what you expected of yourself?
That's a great question. Okay. All right. So I think it's finding that one thing that you could be proud of, right? No matter how big or how small. And, for example, like yesterday was a cleanse day for me. So, and there was temptation all around me, right? And the win was not having the popcorn, right? Okay. And celebrating that and looking at opportunities for where can you win, right? And yes, you can be thrown off your routine. You can, There's things that are going to come into play that are going to knock you off your horse, but it's okay. Just hop back on, right? Like, hop back on the bike, the expression, if you fall off, get back on quick. And, it could be something small. It could be something simple. If you're working on your health, maybe the one thing that's a win for you is not putting in that extra sugar in your coffee today, and acknowledging and looking at that as the win.
I think that's a mistake we all make, is that we don't celebrate our wins. We don't celebrate the really small stuff, because it's the stacking of the small stuff that becomes our normal routine, our normal behaviors, embeds in our thought process. And this is why, and I've talked about this on the podcast, but I can't reiterate enough. I made a decision in my life years ago to positively impact 5 people a day. And so when I'm at the end of the day and I feel completely exhausted, I then reframe myself and say, what did I accomplish today? Who did I positively impact? And there's a difference between feeling exhausted and accomplished, because you can be both. You can be exhausted and accomplished. But if you're just exhausted, you're going to feel even more drained. You're going to let that energy drain out your body. But if you feel accomplished, wow, like I used up all of my mental power, all of my positive capacity, that's a really good day. And I'm going to have a really good sleep tonight.
Yeah. No, listen, I love that. And the other piece that, I would add to that is find comfort in people that uplift you, right? Like find, so this week I had an opportunity to go to an event called Cancer Heroes. And Shireen Arif is the organizer, and my good friend Gabby was the MC for the event. And, the one thing I realized that was missing, right? Like, and I'm pretty good, right? Like, I listen to positive things all the time, and I surround myself with positive people. But the conversations I was able to have at this event with, there was this gentleman by the name of Greg. I know you met Greg. He came to our event. It was just so beautiful to have conversations where people were thinking big and people were thinking, next level. And it's like, oh man, you know what? I forgot about all these things, right? It was so exciting to be in the room, to have a different level of like surrounding myself with the purpose of this event was to raise money for cancer research, but also to launch the book called Cancer Heroes, and listening to these women that had all gone through cancer and, are all surviving cancer and all crushing it, right? Like they're just doing so well after their treatments and everything else, and hearing their stories, that it was just so amazing to hear how much we can actually fight if we want to fight. But it's stepping into the fight, right? And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's not like we got to fight, like go beat somebody up or anything like that. But the only person that we're only struggling against is us, right?
Yes, isn't that the truth? We're struggling against our own confidence levels, our fear of failure, our fear of success, words that are in our head and our psyche that aren't even our words. They might be the words of an old teacher. I know my grade 9 math teacher was the one that said girls don't need math. And, I don't know how many years it took me to erase that voice from my head. And now I just giggle at it. But there are people that have influenced us and put their own thoughts and their own beliefs in our head. And then we're wondering, where did this come from? Why don't I feel authentic in this moment? And the chances are is you've let too much in. So this priming exercise, going back to the beginning, is so important, because we got to put, boundaries around ourselves for what is coming in from mentally, so that we can be our optimal selves in every given moment, because we have one chance at this life, John, and we want to make it the most spectacular, impactful moments that matter.
Yeah. And actually, so this is what I'm going to share with everybody that's listening now, whether you're listening live or to the recording, message me and I'll share my priming process with you. So
I love it.
It's it is beautiful. And, you and I, we both got to experience this at Unleash the Power Within, the event. And it's almost like I'm back in the room whenever I do it. Surrounded by 16,000 people and all doing this at the same time. Like the energy is just, just off the charts. But it's definitely a beautiful process. And, if you can incorporate something like this into your day, I can guarantee you will feel different within 5 days.
Wow.
right?
Okay. So message John if you want access to the priming technique. John, I think you've already that's you activating your at least 5 people a day. Here's the call to action, everyone. This is, we're about to go into 2025, and I want you to spend at least 2 minutes. Just sit down in a comfortable spot, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and visualize yourself 1 year from now. And how are you going to feel? Not how do you want to feel, how are you going to feel?
Mhm.
And then we'll start to layer in what you'll do to get there. And we're going to be talking about this for the next few weeks, because it's that time of year where we really want to get future focused and not just about what tomorrow looks like, but what the future looks like. So let's start that process. Now, you need to do this weekend, because it's going to be a busy weekend for many people.
Mhm.
You need to take that time to take those deep breaths and visualize the future.
Yes. Yeah. No, send me a message. I'm going to love to share this out with you, Felicia, Nicole. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you for listening. And Heather, listen, I love our conversations, and welcome back. So for everybody that's listening live or listen to recording, thank you for listening to our podcast. Just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to you all soon.